What's up, guys, and welcome back to our second podcast of Ambition Longterms. We literally just recorded one, but it turns out I fucked up some of the settings, so now we're doing it again after like 50 minutes. But we're gonna be talking about Survivor Marquesas, all about that, all about the season, the players, and everything. And then we have an important announcement at the end of the video. So, Mill, do you want to start us off?
Let's do this. Okay. So, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is the season overall. Okay, so Survivor Marquesas, I was a little, you know, I think I was a little too high on the season after it ended, but I was super high on the season as it was going. But this, in my opinion, is one of the craziest long terms you're ever gonna see, man. I, I, I don't think I'm ever gonna see anything like this again. And in my opinion, this is the second best Ambition has done, and that says a lot because for the most part, our seasons are pretty freaking good. Uh, Best is still Australian Outback, but our cases came really close, really close. So overall, the pre-merge, there were three players that really brought the pre-merge down, and that kind of brought the season up. If those three people didn't go, then a lot of the more interesting, better, active players who actually cared about the season uh, would have gotten out. So, so I'm happy that they got expelled actually. But the pre-merge overall, you know, it. I'm not gonna really hesitate. This pre-merge was absolutely trash until the final 11, where uh, that idle play that's when the season turned around. So, and then the merge was one of the craziest merges I think I've ever seen in a short term, long term, no matter what it is. This is literally as enjoyable as watching Survivor Kagayan or the current season Winners of War. Like this merge, man, had the emotion. It had you know friendships just being destroyed. These people were ruthless. They just wanted this win, and it was crazy. And so glad I got to see it. Uh, Man, I think I'm being a little too low on this merge. I think any other group would give the season a perfect 10 out of 10, just because of the merge probably. But the way we do things here are completely accurate. So, but yeah, it was an absolute joy, man, and I wasn't expecting it at all. And then we get to the final tribal council, where since this is, I'm gonna get into that later. Just for the overall thing, I don't. The final tribal council almost made me just not like the season as much as it goes. It really almost it kind of soured the season for me a little bit. So who won in the end? It didn't really add up in my opinion. I'll get into that later. So yeah, I loved Marquesas. 9.25 out of 10. I really like. I think it's important. My final verdicts are important. So, uh, what up your opinions on what I think is our second best season we've ever done?
Yeah, I mean, Survivor Marquesas, it starts off with, you know, a pretty poorly pre-merge, and besides the last pre-merge vote. And, me and Mill were like, I don't think it's going to be kind of a boring season to host after that pre-merge. And then all of a sudden, after that last pre-merge vote, things just started turning around. It really popped off. This merge was insane. We had voice calls every day for a week. There was fighting on voice calls. There was backstabbing. There was betrayals. There was idle plays. There was everything you can imagine. This was such a crazy turn from such a bad start to such an amazing middle and end to the season. That was such a ride, such a thrill of a ride to be able to host, and I'm so glad I was able to host a season like that. And I really hope there's more seasons like that to come in Ambition Long Terms. Yeah, Mill.
All right, so the first topic, well, second topic really, but the first talk about the season we're going to be discussing is the pre-merge of Survivor Marquesas. This, you know, in my opinion, I might not be looking at this the best. I think the worst pre-merge we've ever had was from our worst season we've ever had, Survivor Africa. That was the worst pre-merge. Absolutely terrible, besides one pretty good elimination. But this pre-merge kind of creeps up on that a little bit. Um, you know, it started out really, really strong. It started out with a bang. But, and that basically as soon as the cash reveal happened, what felt like almost everyone was just getting together on both tribes, on opposing tribes. There was so much correlation going on, and people went crazy. Um, and man, I I just really wish the pre-merge could have been good because it started out and it looked like it was going to be good. Uh, all these alliance chats forming, all these group chats. It was all these alliances, and we get to the first elimination. And it's like, what just happened? Like, Master Swordsman gets out, and you know, I think it was an average, decent, elimination, right? It The problem with it is that Master wasn't even at the game. Master was, from what we've seen, a pretty good player. He's known for you know, his game where he plays in the middle and makes it obvious that he's playing in the middle. That's kind of why he got out. Got out because his strategy here was it just made him look like a big snake, and that's why he got out. And it was an interesting elimination a little bit, but it was a 6-0 votes. I don't like those. I don't like unanimous votes, and I also hate when the person who gets eliminated isn't in the game. But that's kind of destined to happen in pretty much every long term because activity is key. So Master gets taken out. Nothing much there. And I'm not even gonna discuss time on Alana. Like, Alana didn't say a word, and they leave. And they left, as What Up said, like every server besides I'm pretty sure Triumph Trials. And man, I'm glad it happened. I honestly am glad that they just left the season. And, it kind of, if they weren't gonna try, which they really weren't trying at all, then I'm glad it happened. Then we get to the Bryce. I guess you could say blind side. Bryce is known for being like, and I said this in our first podcast like that we did before we realized we had to redo it. The Bryce and Master eliminations were very similar. The only difference is that Master is he plays in the middle, kind of under the radar as well. Bryce plays super under the radar. So Bryce's elimination just came down to, sometimes in Survivor, people are going to play harder than you. Bazar and Barbified were playing hard. Baz, once he felt tension with Bryce, and he knew he could get away with it, so he throws Bryce under the bus, lies about Bryce, and Bryce gets taken out. And it would have been a better elimination if Bryce was there, but even then, it wouldn't have been really anything that interesting. It was a group decision, but it kind of started the Baz movement in Marquesas. So, and then we get to the dark age of the pre-merge, I guess you could say. I mean, the entire season had a dark age. That was the pre-merge until the final 11, and this was where 2 people get expelled. 7 got expelled. 7 in the beginning, setting voting lists, couldn't make the sessions, trying, I guess, pretty hard, doing everything. They were a pretty good player, but looking back on it, they just didn't care in the end of the day. So I wasn't really mad about seeing 7 going. I was pretty happy. I was pretty relieved. But they left the server right after they got out. I think 30 minutes. So they knew where they were in the season. They knew where the recessions. They just didn't care. So I'm glad that happened. Nothing personal, but that's how it goes. And then Galaxy. This elimination makes me more mad than the Alana and the 7 elimination, because Galaxy, he kind of did try in the beginning. Him and 7 were playing pretty much the same game. Galaxy was a little more in your face, you could say, and Galaxy was doing everything well, and then he just didn't. And here's how it works: if you don't make a session, you're more than likely. It depends on what it really depends on the situation a lot, but we try to be very fair, and we always are. And Galaxy had 2 strikes. All he had to do was make the merge, and his strikes would have gone away because in Ambition long terms, if you make the merge, any strikes you have, go. That's kind of our reward feast, I guess you could say. And Galaxy, he wasn't going home. He wasn't going anywhere. Nobody even knew Galaxy was in the season. I didn't really know he was in the season, you know? He was going to be fine, and he freaking has 2 strikes. And he didn't agree with the way we how the way we run with the 2 strikes, and he quits. And very disappointing to see. Very disappointed, especially because he's an owner of Tribal Studios, long-term groups. So very disappointing, you Galaxy. You know, not personally, just man, as a long-term owner, you know, pretty, because I know you have to deal with, we have to deal with as well. So, and then we get to the thing that pretty much salvaged the entire pre-merge, the very dreadful, boring, predictable pre-merge up until this point. Get to the final 11 where uh this is where this was the first vote after the tribe swap. This is where people after 2 people got expelled, right? And Minna is just deemed as an easy vote. You know, they're just Minna. They were annoying to people that nobody really wanted in the game. They weren't good for anyone on this team, on this tribe. So 3 people voted Minna, and it was, but Barry out of nowhere plays the idol on Minna, getting 3 votes. That is the, it's kind of crazy because we've been going on, like, our first season in Ambition Long Range was August. Our first session was August 4th, 2018, August 4th, and uh, this is our biggest idol play. This is the most votes negated in an idol play, that, and it was only 3, and it's just crazy how that's the way it is. But you know, Barry out of nowhere, Barry, I kind of forgot they were in the season. No offense, but that's just how good you are at the game. So there is no offense there. Plays an idol on Mina. I didn't see it coming from 3 million miles away, man. It was insane. And Sebify gets out, and it was just kind of funny, his reaction to it. But you know, I think it would have been a little more interesting if somebody besides Sebify got out. But yeah, that vote was easily the best vote of the pre-merge, maybe the best of the season. I really liked that idol play. And so the pre-merge overall, absolutely terrible until final 11 vote, where that one vote made it a great pre-merge somehow. I don't know how it's possible. I don't know if I'm that delusional, but it was a terrible and great pre-merge at the same time. So what up? Your turn, man.
Yeah. So the pre-merge, yeah, it was kind of, a very not the best thing to host, honestly. We start off with Master, a very good player, and other long terms. We saw him, just get duped by Albert, a top 10 player, a guy who's gonna play hard every single time he gets on Ambition long terms, and he just simply trusted the wrong guy and got out, and that was that. Then we got Alanophobia. I'm not sure. The trio of Alanophobia, Galaxy, and Seven. I know they're all friends outside of the game. I'm not sure if that correlated to them all being out in kind of the same way. Probably, but I'm not positive on it. So then we have Alanophobia expelled. She leaves every server but this one server that I was in with her. And then we go to Bryce. Bryce, Baz felt like he was on the outs. I remember at the premiere, he joins the VC with me, and he's like, "Yo, dude, I'm on the outs. Like, I think I'm probably gonna be like the first person out of the long term already." And he makes up this. He throws Bryce under the bus to save himself, and Bryce is out 5 to 1 to 1. Then we get to day 12 of Survivor Marquesas, and uh, Galaxy Wolf Destroyer. He is a long-term host, and as a fellow long-term host, I was very disappointed in what had come of his time in Ambition long terms. He didn't like how even if you send a voting list, you get a strike. Even like if you miss and send the voting list, you get a strike, and that's just the rules for Ambition long terms. And, as a long-term host, you should know that. Um, just don't complain about the rules all the time and just follow them. And he didn't like the rules and he didn't want to follow them. So he left before he even could be expelled. He didn't even get 3 strikes before he left. He just left the server and he was gone. Just, I guess, quit or expelled, whatever you want to take it. And Seven right after, Seven, uh, she would tell me when she's gonna miss. She would tell me like what's happening. And then all of a sudden, when Galaxy left, she just went on ghost mode, and I literally haven't heard a word from her since Ambition Long Terms. I don't know what happened. She just went on ghost mode. I don't even know if she's alive. Literally, at this point, well, she probably is. But literally, that's literally ghost mode, and then we get to that's the whole pre-merge, or not the whole pre-merge, but it's very disappointing. I'm getting it's like kind of boring to host, and then we get to the final 11. You know, the last pre-merge vote before merge, and this is where things started turning around. This is where the season started catching fire, and eventually flame, flame, flame. You know, so there's a tribe swap that happened previously, and you got Sebify and other people voting Mina. Mina, the eventual winner of the season. She has the majority of the votes on her. But Barry, a person who had found the idol on, I believe, Premiere, or it was actually a reward challenge that her team got, that they all got a word that that would help them find the idol clue, and they all shared it with each other. And Barry found the idol and used it on Mina, which negated Mina's 3 votes, and Sebify was voted out 2-1-0 with 3 votes negated for Mina, and that was our first actual idol play since. Sorry, I moved my mic. Is my mic broken?
Oh, I can hear you fine.
So that was our first idol play since, or first successful idol play since Australian Outback, way back on Australian Outback, the final 5 with Princess Kitty Girl, which is I love seeing successful idol plays, and that was that just showed like what a good under the radar player Barry is. She strikes when you don't expect it, and she striked, and Sebify got out. And after that great blindside auto play, that's where season catch fire. And I wanted to say before I forgot to mention it, and shout out to our production team for the season. We had our aftermath doing good. Our this guy named production member Lyric made a intro. Our production member Steven taking pictures. Production member Brent's taking pictures. Everyone doing a great job of helping us do a successful season. So shout out to our production team for that. Thank you guys for being awesome. So Mil, you want to talk about the merge?
Yeah, I also want to add on to that. Thanks, guys. Basically, everybody really for the intro. Brent and Steven for the photos. Solely for that unbelievable realistic trial accounts.
Yeah,
That might
solely.
be the. Keep going.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen some game changers tribal council. The PPS, their tribal council for the auto game. That game changers tribal council was unbelievable, man. And I hate to say this, but because I feel like I'm kind of going, I don't know if I'm correct about this, but the tribal council Soleil made for Marquesas was as close as perfect as you can come to.
Yeah, it was almost an exact replica of the tribal council on Marquesas, which is awesome to see.
And I don't know how Soleil even did that, but super grateful for you, man. Super grateful for Tyla and Poiple Dean for those aftermath. Thanks, you guys. And thank you so much, Brent and Steven, for those photos. And Lyric, man, that intro, and also one for Revenge of the Island, man. Thank you so much. You guys really helped us put together a thrill of a season that really helped us move forward. Okay, so getting into the merge. All right, this merge is the best merge we've ever done for Ambition Long Terms, and I say that without any hesitation. The only one that even comes remotely close is from Australian Outback, which I think is our best season. But this merge, it's probably I've played in, I think I'm on my 11th long term right now, over the course of 3 years now, and this merge is the best merge I have ever seen in a long term. I have read a lot of other final verdicts, how people think about the seasons. And this merge is something that I don't think What Up or I, unfortunately, will ever see again. What Up? You just lost connection to the game.
Nope. That's true.
Uh,
Nah, you
yeah.
can keep talking. Yeah, don't worry.
All right. So, this merge, man. If you were there, and that's the funny thing. A lot of these players were there. The entire merge were there. They didn't even understand how much fun that we were having watching this. This merge was just unbelievable. Basically, we get there, alliance chats, freaking group chats, all these things forming. Who's going to go home, right? And Albert, unfortunately, his resume was too huge. He's a snake, he took out Galaxy, like he was just deemed as or he took out a master, sorry. He was just kind of deemed as a snake, somebody not to trust, and you know, the vote though, a 5 to 4 to 1, that is like I love tight votes, like those 3 to 2s, 4 to 3s, where there's one vote left. Where you can say one vote left. Unbelievable, man. And I love just acknowledging the fact that there's 10 people in the game. Okay, not all of them made the session. Like I think 7 or 8 made the session. That are like, who's gonna go home? Like 4 people wanted Andrew to go home. 5 people wanted Albert to go home. And Albert going home, a great start for the merge. Albert. I I love man. I love you, man. I feel like in the world tour in our first podcast, I didn't attack you. I just like said I loved how you got out because it was a great story. But I love seeing you go home again, and I know that it's not an attack to you at all. It's just I love seeing a big player like you go home because you put everything to every long term, and so appreciative for you to do that as well. Um, so yeah, that happens, and then the next vote, which I honestly think could have been the best elimination we've ever had. It was a 3 to 2 vote. 3 votes for Bazaar, who's the biggest player of the season by far. There were 3 votes for uh, Scorpion Stinger, and there were 2 votes for Andrew. So there was a revote, and it was a 4 to 3. 4 to 3. Baz barely escapes. That's how good he is at this game, man. And this could have been the best elimination of the season possibly we've ever done. However, Scorpion going home just didn't do anything for me. Scorpion didn't care about this long term at all. Even if he did, it really wouldn't have done it. I wish, no offense, Baz, at all, but I wish you went home because that would have been just unbelievable to watch for What Up and I, man, and the production. But man, that was a great elimination, even though Scorpion unfortunately went, in my opinion. And then we get to the final 8, and this is where like the final 11 is where the season went upside down. That's where the season completely changed. Final 8, man, really started off the insaneness that made this an unprecedented long-term, unprecedented merge. Like this is so for like these people went crazy, and Andrew Inky sends a screenshot, and I feel like I hate to say this, but I feel like that was the best way for him to go. I feel like the most interesting elimination regarding Andrew would have been him just getting striked out because of screenshot. So I'm actually kind of glad that happened. No offense, nothing personal. Just kind of, if you're a host, you understand how it feels seeing Andrew go out like that. And then at the final 7, so that started this whole movement of unbelievableness. But the final 7 is really where, and What Up has described this a lot as Hell Week. God, this is where people would just go on all these freaking voice calls and go crazy. There was so much blood. The final 7 is really where there was blood all over this island, man. After it was over, these people just did everything in their power to get to last one more day, and I believe I think it was a Sunday. Um, that's where 10 or the final 7, almost all of them or all, were in voice calls for 10 hours, and I wasn't on Discord that day, but I'm glad I wasn't, because I don't know if it's really healthy to do that kind of stuff. But 10 hours, man, that's just unbelievable. And Baz gets eliminated, and nothing personally, man, but I love you getting eliminated just because of how big of a player and the fact that you're the biggest player of the long term, in my opinion. Baz, I don't know what the long term would have been without you. So you going home was great. 4-2 to 1. I wish it was 4-3, but you can't always get your way. So good elimination regardless. And the final six is the final, like, everything was just going so crazy. Final six is like the last kind of crazy week or day, I guess, for these people. Session, this is where Barry, who had been playing a perfect under the radar game the entire time, like Barry knew what was going on every elimination, and and this also I think started the or actually I think it was I just know Barbafide. Barbafide played an idol on Levia, thinking Levia was going home, but no, it was 100% Barry, and Barry. I'm so glad that idol was played because that meant one vote didn't count, and that could have really messed with the people in the game. Their heads, they're like, wait, Levia's getting actually was going to go home. No, it was a 3-2 on between Barry and Morbrid. Two super under the radar, huge threats. Huge threats. Like, and Barry going home was more satisfying than Morbrid going home, in my opinion, just because of the story. And a huge player taking out. And it's funny because I'm pretty sure One Up and I, like, nobody even knew. People in the season didn't even know Barry was in the season. That's how under the radar and great at the game they are. So that was really nice to see. And Final Five, as One Up said, is where the season kind of started to calm down. Like, the entire merge, there was all this blood, stabbings, and it's a little too far, but still, like, everything was just going really crazy. The Final Five is where everyone was able to settle down and be like, okay, we're close to the end. Everything's kind of in the air. Let's do this, And then Barbify. I just want to say I'm so glad that Barbify, played these idols unsuccessfully. That was just so hilarious how Barbify found 3 idols. That's a record in Mission Longterms. 3 idols and played them all unsuccessfully. That was so funny to watch. And at the Final Five, it was between arguably the two out of 3 the best players of the season thus far, between Morbrid and Levia. So it was a 2-2-1. Levia actually voted Minna, and Levia voted incorrectly on, I think, every tribal council of the season. Levia voted Minna, didn't count because of Barbifide's idol. And then Morbrid and Jalen voted Levia or Corey. And then Minna and Barb, that's when that duo really started. They voted Morbrid. So it was a tie between Morbrid and Levia, and Minna and Barbifide took out Morbid easily. Jalen stuck to his duo that originated in our Total Drama Island back in November 2018 between Morbid and Jalen. And Morbid's a legend. He was the 3rd best player of TDI. I was the best. No, not really, but Morbid definitely the 3rd best player of TDI in my opinion, or even better than me. Comes back in almost a year later, and no, it was a year later actually, over a year, and just under actually. And Morbid comes back and plays so similarly. But in TDI, I experienced TDI with Morbid, and we had to overcome a lot. We had to work for being 4 of the Screaming Gophers to even enter a 13-person, well, really 11, but still. And Morbid played like the exact same game here, but he had so much more control and power than he did in TDI. So it was great to see Morbid play amazingly again, and he was easily who I was rooting for the most to win. So, and he was probably at this time the best player of the season. So, him going home was very satisfying, and I don't mean that in any bad way. And especially how we got to play the humane music that we played for, the legends. Or depends. It really depends, but we play it when it's really necessary. If you don't know what that music is, it's look it up on YouTube. Played for Sari, Christian, David vs. Goliath, and Game Changers. So it was really nice to see Morbid go home. Nothing personal at all. And then the Final Four, it kind of the season kind of lost its momentum here. Jalen and Levia were teaming. It looked like Levia was finally going to get his way, and Minna was finally going to go home because Jalen was never going to win at the end and wasn't as good as challenges. But Barb and Minna vote Jalen, and Levia and Jalen vote Minna, and so then it was a 2-2, and Levia and Barbifide do not change their votes. However, Barbifide was not budging, Barba was not budging at all to get out Mina, and wanted Jalen out for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but What Up probably knows more about it than I do. And then Levi was forced to take out Jalen, or else he'd go home. And it was kind of funny how Levia was even hesitating to do that because he was going to go home if he did it. But I guess it comes down to how impactful the relationships that are built in this game actually have to do with how people feel after the season, in between the season, because it was a mess. This season was the best mess you'll ever find, man. And the final four, or the final three, it's like, okay, I felt like, I think both What Up and I knew that Levia, if Levia got to the end, easy win, would have easily swept the four man, and would have easily swept the four there. And Barbified wins, of course. Barbified ties the record with Coulter 122 from the Australian Outback and Suffer the Children from Africa with most individual wins in a season with 3. And Barbified takes out Levia, which was the right decision because Barbified, but if you think about it, Barbified wasn't going to win either way. And then in the final two, it's between Barbified and Minute, the weirdest final two combination. Like, what? Like, I don't even understand how that's possible. But Minute easily wins. I'm not going to really get into that until we review the individual notable players. So this merge, unprecedented. It's one of the biggest things that I don't even know. I'm still having problems digesting that it even happened. That's how big this merge. It was unbelievable, and all these players, they're lucky to have even been there. And What Up and I and production are super lucky for this cast. Thank you for the cast of the merge, basically 8 of you, for making this a great experience for us. So What Up, your thoughts on the merge?
Yes, sir. I mean, I like how the line you used, the best mess you'll ever see. I think that's definitely what I would describe Survivor Marquesas as, the best mess you'll ever see. I mean, you start off merge with Albert Finwesker, a guy who's, if you watch the previous podcast, strategically, socially dominated Total Drama World Tour, and seen as a threat in the season. Albert was trying to get votes on Andrew. His side was getting votes on Albert, and it came down to a 5-4 to 1 vote, and Albert is out just like that. The first merge boot, like a top 10 player out like that, man. It was crazy. And then you go to the next episode, and the immunity challenge happens. Then you go to tribal council, and Baz does this whole Bizarre 20 has this whole fake crying thing where he's like crying at the tribal council, and everyone's like, some people are annoyed by it, and I think most people are annoyed by it. I don't think most of the contestants didn't even like consider that real crying. He was like, he did this fake crying act, to save himself one last thing, because if he knew that his name was on the chopping block, and he was correct because it tied 3-2. And we were spam pinging Scorpion. Scorpion was not there at the session. We're like, Scorpion, you have to vote. And he didn't vote, and it ended up being his downfall because it tied 3-2 between Scorpion and Baz. Then we go to a revote. And I just want to talk about Tribal Council one more time. That was a pretty big Tribal Council, a pretty underrated Tribal Council. I mean, it's a big Tribal Council because of the 3-2 tied in the next vote, but the talking before that underrated. People were fighting basically. I remember one of the lines was like, Andrew calls Barry a dumbass or something like that, and they're Barry and Andrew are like saying stuff to each other and all that. 3-2. Andrew receives 2 votes, Baz receives 3, and Scorpion receives 3. And then it goes to a revote. Scorpion is voted out 4-3. The revote was also close, 4-3, man. If one guy flips and it's over for Baz. But then with Baz staying, that was the catalyst for, well, as Mill said, I describe it as Hell Week. This was Hell Week for the contestants. I cannot say enough about this week. It was so, I'm smiling right now how good it was. Literally, it started off with, a tribe meeting. Baz is saying shit about Andrew, and he knows that Andrew has 2 strikes. He's trying to get Andrew, as he did in Total Drama Action. He trying to get Andrew to send a screenshot, and he made Andrew so mad, saying insults to Andrew, that Andrew sends a screenshot, and when you send a screenshot, you get a strike. He had 2 strikes, got his third, and he was expelled in 8th place. And he got expelled, and then the talking began. The whole day, like basically it was like the whole day. I know I probably like 10 to 12 hours of people and voice chats and voice chats and voice chats, and everyone's talking in one voice chat, and I joined that, and then there's like multiple voice chats happening. I have to join each one, trying to listen to every conversation that's happening. And this happened daily for like a whole week until the next session. This wasn't the one day thing. This was happening every day, where I'm listening to conversations, and then, oh wait, there's another call happening, let me join that. Wait, let me listen to this conversation. I'm trying to get all the information I can get. And friendships were broken that week. Friendships that, I'll bring it up. Levy and Dina and Barbified. They had a friendship going into the game. Like, they were best friends. Best friends for like 3 years or something like that. This long term was able to break, or at least put a line in that friendship. I saw Levy and Dina threw Barbified under the bus, which is a underrated social move that she did, that Levy and Dina did. And, people are yelling and fighting and conspiring against people, talking trash, yelling at me for some stuff that, they're like, this is too far. And then all this stuff was happening. It was the craziest week I've seen in a long term. And I've been in big long terms, and I've never seen a week like this happen, where multiple voice chats are happening, for hours on end, every single day until the next session. And I don't know, I doubt it that I will see another week like this happen in Ambition long terms, or even a long term in general. Like, this was a once in a lifetime thing in a long term, and I'm so glad I got to be able to see, and it was insane. It was insanity that week. It was crazy, and those contestants, I'm surprised they didn't grow like gray hairs or something. That just one fucking week that was. And I could do a whole podcast just talking about that week. Literally, that's how dynamic that was. So then we get to the session, the session that we're all anticipating. Oh shit, here's a session right before Hell Week, right after Hell Week. And so, it goes to the immunity challenge. Morbid wins the immunity, and you go to Tribal Council. Morbid, who found a hidden immunity idol, I believe, pre-merge. If Morbid can clarify that, yes or no. I know he's in a voice call right now. If it's been muted, I believe, yeah, it was pre-merge. Yep. So he got a pre-merge. He plays it on Barbified, who, by the way, Barbified had immunity. Was it just, or if it wasn't just idols or immunity challenge wins, he was immune from the final 7 to the finale, which is very, that's just insane to me, that you can be immune from final 7 to final 2 by winning immunity challenges and finding idols and playing on yourself, or having other people like Morbid played on him. And Morbid, a very good player, played on Barbified, negating only 1 vote. But that's how crazy it was. That who knew who was getting voted out at that point? Everyone was talking. Everyone had different plans in their heads to what was going to happen. And, Bizarre 20, probably the biggest personality that season, along with Barbified, was voted out 4-2 to 1, with one vote nullified against Barb. 2 votes for Barry. And he's juror number 3. And then we get to the final 6. It's a double session. We get to the immunity challenge. Mina won her second individual immunity. And Barbified played his idol on him, negating 0 votes, which is funny because Barbified has not been very good at idols. He found 3 idols, played all of them incorrectly. And I forgot to say, at the Scorpion vote off, he played idol on Levia, and that negated 0 votes. So that was the second immunity idol. He played it on himself and negated 0 votes again. 2 idols negating 0 votes. I mean, he can find idols. He just hasn't been able to use them correctly. And Barry was voted out in a 3-2-1 vote. 3 votes for him, 2 votes for Morbid, and 1 vote for Levy. And Barry, even though he got voted out, was a very good under the radar player. You know, he made the only idol move that's correctly. He was in the shadows, just I think needed to be in the spotlight a little bit more to go further into the game. Then we get to the next session. It's the final 5. This is the week after Hell Week. It's a little bit more relaxed now. People kind of getting their footholds on their relationships. To still fight. But there was the idol hunt, where after the session where Barry and Bizarre got out, you got Levia, Morbid, and Barbified looking for the idol. They're all looking. Morbid and Levia leaves after like an hour. Morbid and Barbified finish after like 3 hours. And then, the next day, Barbified gets there early. Barbified looks for about an hour and a half, finds the idol. Then, about, I'd say, a few hours later, Morbid DMs me. He's like, hey, can I get TP to the idol? I'm like, yeah. And I already knew Barbified had the idol. So this man looked for about, I think like 3 hours. He looked for the idol that was already found because he knew his ass was on the line. And that shows the commitment. Looking for an idol for that long, probably like 6 hours in total if you're taking both days. It's a classic thing that like Brent1324 did in Australian Outback. He was looking for an idol that was already found. That the commitment to look for that long looking for an idol is one damn of a, that shows how much heart you're putting into game, and I love when players are able to do that. And we get to the session, we get to the immunity challenge. Barbified barely beats Morbid in a probably our controversial challenge of the season. I know Morbid's section was a little bit farther from me than Barbified comes when they finished. Barbified finished first, Morbid comes, and Barbified narrowly beats Morbid by like 5 seconds at max. And you can argue that if both of theirs were together, then maybe Morbid would have won. So then we get to the Tribal Council. The vote ties between Leviathina and Morbid. And then you have to go to a revote. And, a vote tied 2-2-1 with Barbified playing her 3rd immunity idol on Minna, negating only 1 vote. So out of 3 idols, she negated 1 vote. That is, it's insane to me that you could, like, just do that. Or, like, just, it's not even like she was out of the loop. It's just that the season, who knew who was getting, like, the votes on her side. So, yeah, Jalen and Morbid, they vote Levia. Levia votes Minna. And Jalen and Morbid vote Levia, which was honestly smart on, I believe, Morbid's part. That, they could have voted with Levia, but it was most likely that Mina would have an idol played on her with Barbified 1 immunity. So that was a great job on flipping the vote. It's just that it didn't pan out with Mina not voting with them. Mina having a very close connection with Barbified after Hell Week. They got very close, I would say like sisterly love at that point. And then, it ties 2-2-1. Levia flips her vote. Jalen keeps his vote. And Morbid is voted out 2-1 after a revote. And he comes in 5th place. And, robbed legend, man. I think me and Mill were rooting for Morbid to win that season. He was kind of, I guess you'd say, a fan favorite at that point in the season. And we get to the Final 4 immunity challenge. And they go, and who would have guessed it? Barbified wins his 2nd individual immunity challenge, and immune again from the final 7 to that point. And at the tribal council, all idols were void, and Jalen and Minna are tied 2-2. Levia and Jalen voted Minna. Minna and Barbified voted Jalen. And this vote, you know, Mill has said almost brought him to tears how emotional that vote off was. Remind you guys that this is a voice chat long term, so when these people are talking and stuff, it kind of means more than when you're typing. You can see emotion in how people talk, and you know, having Jalen, get voted off was was really he's an icon ambition long terms. He has when I see the stories of people coming back from seasons a year ago, year and a half ago, he has one of the cooler stories of ambition long terms, and it's really cool to see this vote off as it tied 2-2, and then they do a revote. It ties 1-1 again. Livingston doesn't want to is trying to get Barbified to flip on Minna. Because since the revote tied, they had to come to a unanimous decision, or Livingston would be out. And even with Livingston's ass on the line, he's still trying to get Barbified to flip. Barbified, the best move at her point was to just keep it the same. So Livingston is just trying to get Barbified to flip, and Jalen's like, "Hey, Livingston, it's all right. It's gonna be okay. You win it for me, and I'm ready to go." And that shows the hero in Jalen. I really respect that elimination. And he was voted out in the first unanimous decision vote of Ambition Long Term's history. So he's still him in history, and he got the classic humane music. Who Morbid also got. Another icon Ambition Long Terms. They both got the humane music, a music that was used for Suri and Survivor Game Changers. And then we get to the finale. The finale, the classic Survivor challenge where they all go on a pole and they're jumping from pole to pole or jumping back and forth until until last person standing wins. And there's a curse of this challenge. Every person who has won that challenge ends up losing. From Survivor Borneo, Wise One lost the season. In Survivor Africa, Beyonce Big One lost the season. And the curse did not end there. Barbified won his third Individual Immunity Challenge, tying Suffer the Children and Culture for most Individual Immunity Challenges wins in a season. And at the final tribal council, he either gets to vote out his best friend Leviathina, who he had a very up and down relationship on the season. This long term is probably the biggest test in their friendship, which also is a great storyline for the season. That friendship is that is one of the storylines of Survivor Marquesas is that relationship. And Barbified came to win, and she was willing to vote off Leviathina, which was the best choice for him. And he voted off Leviathina 1-0 and kept Minna to the end. And so they get to the final tribal council, Minna and Barbified. Minna's jury speech is basically, or jury questions, she was saying, oh, what other people did. She was just basically just being truthful about everything, about what other people did and stuff. And Barbified was saying his moves and what he did. It really came down to, I guess, jury management. And, it's kind of like a Russell Hand situation where the jury despised that person so much that they wanted to vote the other person. And that eventually what it came down to. Sometimes to win a season just comes down to who you're next to. And for Minna, luckily, she was against not the most likable person for the jury. And Barbified, both had good final tribal council performances. But it's just that Minna's bluntfulness was more liked by the jury, and the jury voted Minna to win 5-2 over Barbified to win Survivor Marquesas, which, at first left the sour taste in Mill's mouth, sour taste in my mouth, where I didn't really appreciate it because I felt Barbified deserved to win. I put him as the best player of the season. But it doesn't come down to me. It comes down to the jury, and that's why I love Survivor so much. That it comes down to the jury to vote, and the jury voted Mina to win, and you have to respect that. You have to respect her as a player. So now we're gonna go into talking about these individual players as a whole. And Mill, if you want to start us off.
Wait, did you want me to discuss the final tribal council?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, I kind of my eye went up with this one. At first it left a really sour taste in my mouth. I was like, I couldn't digest it for like another month and a half. I was like, I could not feel Mina winning. Mina winning, sorry. And I knew. Okay, here's the thing. You can ask what up. I don't know if I told him this, but he probably believes me. And as soon as I asked Mina if she was in her outfit for her GFX, after the response she gave me, I knew she was gonna win the season. I don't know how. I just predicted. Okay, I just felt. I was like, okay, Mina's gonna win this season. It's just one of those things, you know. You just know it's gonna happen, and it happened. And I knew going to basically at the final five, I'd already kind of forgotten about that, and I was like, at the final five, I was like, okay. But before Morbid got out, I was like, okay, Mina's gonna win this season. It's gonna happen. I was right at first, and you get to it's final two, and man, I still don't. I don't agree with the decision. I do not agree with the decision. I think it was. I do agree. I love how the best player of the season isn't always going to win, and how the jury decides who wins. It's really because it's unpredictable. Survivor. Everybody likes to hate on Ben winning Heroes versus Hustlers. And the idol nullifiers and this what happened to Sari, what happened to Janet, and I'm okay with this because it adds unpredictability, and I love everything that Survivor's doing with all these advantages because it makes it unpredictable, and you never know who's going to win Survivor, and that really showed at this deciding of the sole Survivor. And I would have personally voted Barbified. I think Barbified would have been was easily the best player of the season, or not easily, but still the best player of the season. At that minute was only the fifth, and if somebody like Bizarre, who got seventh place, which isn't too close to the end, was fourth best player of the season, I think that really shows that they made the incorrect decision. And I let them know this. What Up let them know this. I was like, really, guys, come on. You had to be that bitter. And some of them, like Bizarre, even told me, it came down to gameplay. They actually, for some reason, felt that Mina played the better game, which I kind of understand. And I'll get into that more when we discuss the players. But the final tribal council, Mina probably gave a better speech than Barbified, but because Mina, it all came down to like what Upinator said, jury management. Mina smartly made the jury vote her. I don't know if it was smartly. I don't know. I'm just gonna say this now. I don't know if Mina did anything get this season unintentional or intentional or not, but I know Barbified did. And Barbified, in Mina's defense, even if anybody in this season won the game, besides possibly Bizarre, then they would have been the worst winner we've had. And that's Mina was still a great winner, so that really speaks to how good our winners are. So that's the final tribal council, man. It really left a big sour taste in my mouth for a good month and a half, and now I can finally kind of look at it and be like, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was. Kind of bad, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So now we're going to be discussing we're basically going to be doing like verbal host opinions here on just the notable players. We're not going to do host opinions on like Alanophobia, Galaxy. Like, there's no point. So yeah, we're only going to do notable players. So the first one is Sebify. And Sebify got 11th place. That kind of just shows how bad the pre-merge was. The first notable player was 11th. And he played a very good game. Sebify, the thing about Seb is that you can't not say he played a good game when nobody was ever thinking about voting Sebify out. If Barry didn't find that idol, then Sebify could have easily gotten into the end. I think there was a 7 out of 10 chance he would have made the final five, final four. Like Stepify could have easily won this game had Barry not found the idol. But hey, unpredictability, right? So Stepify played a very good game. He was always in a good position. He had pretty good amount of power. Um, and it all came down to that idol and a 3-2 to 1 vote. Minna, that was the common enemy. Why keep Minna? But Barry's like, nope. Barry, who'd been sitting under the radar, you know, wanted to do something. But this is about Seb right now. So Sebify, his reaction was really funny, and it's kind of sad because this started the curse for Sebify. He told me that he's got an idol out 7 times in seven straight long terms for Survivor that he's done, and that Marquesas was the first one that this happened. So Marquesas, he thinks, started a curse for him. I think it's just a huge coincidence, but Sebify is cursed now. He thinks so. That started something special, and Sebify, I'm very impressed by his performance this season. That's my opinions on him.
Yeah. For Sabify, he was in a good position throughout the pre-merge. He was on the majority of the votes, had a good social game, good strategic game, was good physically, and the tribe swap happened. He's still a majority, and yeah, he really, if he made it to merge, I think also he makes it to the final five for sure. I mean, he was just an all around good player. And it just came down to Barry having an idol, knew where the votes were heading, and used the idol correctly and got Sebify out. And that was a good move on them because they got a great player out and Sebify. And, I wouldn't mind to see him coming back because he is robbed. He is the definition of robbed. And it would be cool to see him back because he was a good player. That's my opinion on Sebi.
Okay, so thank you. What up? Now we're going to be talking about our 10th placer, and I'm very happy for Sebify that he was able to be on the jury as well because 2 people got removed from the jury for being expelled. So Sebify and Albert took their place. Especially happy for Albert as well. Happy for both of them equally, but like Albert was, in my opinion, even though Mr. Nicholas is Mr. Nicholas from World Tour, and you can watch our first podcast actually, where the name we mentioned the most in that is actually Albert. Albert was the biggest villain this season. He was easily the main character in my opinion, and I've known Albert for a very long time. He's a really good friend of mine, and I was not expecting Albert to go anywhere in World Tour, and he absolutely shut me up. He rocketed me into space. I don't know what the guy did, but he somehow did what he did, and it was unbelievable. And Albert came here with a huge target on his back, and I've talked so much about Albert in that World Tour podcast and what up to two. That was the most common name, and he came into Marquesas, and he basically played the same game except a little more laid back. He was constantly gaming and hardcore gaming in World Tour with everyone, especially Lukey Bunny and Albert. Here, he basically did the same thing, except he tried to be a little more relaxed and open and trustworthy, where he was just a cutthroat, in-your-face player in World Tour. And here he impressed me once again. He's a top 10 player for us, and he was the one who orchestrated the first boot with Master. That was all Albert, and I'm not sure about this 100%. I could be wrong. But I feel like if Albert lost a single pre-merge challenge after Master went home, he was 100% out. Just based off of whatever would have saying the professionals about Albert being the target. I'm voting Albert. Sending a list for Albert, whatever. Albert, got to the merge, and I'm so thankful he did because Survivor Marquesas is, I'm pretty sure his first or second season. So, Albert, and I'm glad you got out though because I love seeing big players get taken down, and especially in a 5-4-1 man. So thank you, Albert, for playing, and definitely a notable castaway. Thank you.
Yeah, Albert, the guy who strategically and socially dominated Total Drama World Tour came into the season, with us bringing our first podcast, we talked about him a lot. So, it puts an even bigger target on him. And, he came into the season, first vote after his team loses. So what does he do? He does what Albert does, gets someone out. He gets Master out. Even though he made like a final two of Master 2, he still, does Albert things. Then, he gets to, I think, I don't think that was might have been the only tribal council he went to pre-merge. Then he makes it to merge, and he has a target on him. He's trying to get votes against Andrew. The Andrew side is getting votes on Albert. It is going to come down to a last minute decision between people. And what do you know? He ends up being the 5-4-1 vote. And that just shows you Albert never will go out not swinging. It came down to people's last minute decisions voting Albert out. That was a very close vote between Andrew and Albert. And, you know, this is a guy who is able to get votes. He has a good social game. He has a good strategic game. And, just came down to his target and other people's relationships. And, you know, a legend in ambition long terms. And I'm glad that he was a part of the season.
Okay, so that's your opinion on Albert?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first of all right, just gotta find the list of the notables I made. Oh, it's pretty obvious. Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you guys. I was just really quickly looking. We our first podcast from I believe February is where we discussed what's a long term. We reviewed Total Drama World Tour and we described the word ambition into great detail. And that YouTube video actually has 130 views now. So just gonna thank you all for that because that's pretty cool. And now jumping into sorry Scorpion Singer. I think it's clearly not a notable player, but we have to mention Andrew actually. So this entire season, I don't really know if Andrew wanted to be there or not, but One Up and Andrew, I guess, were making some kind of, they were coming to agreement, negotiation, and having Andrew stay in the long term. So Andrew, I guess he played pretty hard during the pre-merge, even though it didn't feel like he did. Now that I'm looking back on it, he was always in a good position. He was never really going to go home, and that really showed. And he was pretty active, honestly, and kind of one of the mid-card, players of the pre-merge. And he comes. So when the merge hit, I don't know why, but Albert was targeted, but Andrew was targeted. I really don't know why. I think it was a weird decision to even target him because I don't really think he wasn't really a big part of any major, factions or alliances, and I don't really understand why he was targeted, but he was. He got 4 votes at the Merge Tribal Council out of 10, so 40% of the votes. And then at the final 9, there were 8 votes cast. He got 3. Wait, what did he? Yeah, he got 2 votes. Sorry, he got 2 votes. 2 out of 8. So I don't know why, but it just was the case. Maybe he was a lot better than I thought, but the reason he's notable is just because of what really happened involving him. Other players kind of made him notable. The way Baz took him out, which I was kind of unfamiliar with, but Baz just destroyed. He did exactly what he did with Authentic Vibes and TDA, and destroyed Andrew by just irritating him. She kept poking him, and Andrew sent a screenshot, and that was over. I feel really bad for Andrew for that. How Baz was kind of, I guess bullying with okay intentions, but I don't know what he was saying, so I'm not gonna get into that. And Andrew, I kind of feel bad for him, but he was really funny, and I'm glad he got to play. That's it.
Yep. So, yeah, Andrew. Andrew is a guy who, I mean, he'll say it how he sees it. I remember at the pre-merge, he tells Livy at dinner, if you're gonna go after me, you're I forget the exact wording he said, but it was like, if you're gonna go after me, like you better not like I will get you out or some shit. Like he like kind of threatening Leviathan to not go after him, and that left a sour taste in Leviathan's mouth. And at merge, during the Scorpion vote off, Barry says some shit about Andrew. Andrew like calls him a dumbass, and they're saying things back and forth. Andrew's just a player that he will come back at you if you go after him, and he will just he's the player Andrew is for what we saw in Ambition long terms was a guy who I don't really know how to describe him as a player. He says what's on his mind. He was barely he would barely survive the merge votes, but he was still surviving. And not sure how to pinpoint Andrew as a player. All I know is that he can survive and he will say anything, really. And Baz, he saw the kind of player Andrew was, and Andrew did get expelled for sending screenshots due to the first day of Hell Week. The first meeting, the first voice call of Hell Week, and you know that's really much to say about Andrew. He says stuff. Um he plays the game, and I did not mind casting him all, even if he was expelled. There's not a lot of people I can say that about, but I really enjoyed him this season, and even if it was a perfect way for him for it to end his game by him getting expelled. Like that was just it just seemed like all right, that's the end, and Andrew played good. I wouldn't mind him.
Yeah, I completely agree with that being the best way for him to go. A vote out would have just been really weird. So now we move into the most forgettable player of the season by far. No, just kidding. The biggest personality of the season by far, Bazar20. He's one of the weirdest stories ever because like he played in Total Drama Action last summer, started in June 2019, and he was in that like second in command position, and basically letting solely call the shots. And he was such a great player though, and he just gets to the final six. Uh, I think I might have been final five. I can't remember when attack returned, but he made it to the 6 or 5 and just got taken out. And it was such a weird ending for his story because like I didn't really think he got to finish what he started because of how good of a player he is. And pretty sure he even had a record in Peak Precision Studios with wins. I don't know if he was on the board or not, but and Bazar randomly comes back from Marquesas, and I guess he applied for Africa, and he didn't make it there, so he gets another chance here. And what's so interesting is I was actually playing in Duckside Studios, and Bazar was the host of that, and along with Nathan, and then Bazar plays in Ambition Longterms at the same time, and it's just so weird, in a good way. And but Bazar came here and absolutely threw everything at the wall. I don't know why, I don't know how, but Bazar did everything he could to control this game, and it really worked for that pre-merge. He completely destroyed Bryce. He was constantly in his confessionals typing about I don't even know what, like, actually, logical things. But Bazar, he played as such a powerful force, and he really was not the best player this season, but if you're he's the fourth best player of the season. If that's 1/4 of the cast, that's pretty good. And he got to the merge where he, Barbified and Warbrid kind of controlled the first two votes. At the final 10, he was acting like he was crying, but he used that to his advantage to get pity and survive. And because he was targeted this entire season and he didn't understand why. That was kind of his story, why am I being targeted? And such a ruthless player, and he barely survives the final 9. That if you can survive the final 9 somehow over Scorpion, who was the most flop, probably the biggest flop of the season, then you're doing something right. So Bezar, I'm incredibly impressed with him. But when it's 7 people left, and also final eight man, what he did with Andrew was so super ruthless, but in a game sense, I think it was brilliant. I don't really know what happened though. So, and then at the final seven though, final seven is too close to the final two to really keep Baz in the game. He was just too good. I mean, pretty sure he went the rivalry with him in Barbified. I mean, that kind of pretty much caught up to him. So thank you so much, Baz. I truly do not know what the season would have been without Baz. I think if you take Baz away from the season, it could have been an 8.5 easily. So thank you, Baz, for playing, man.
Yeah, I mean, Bizarre 20, man. Probably one of our most controversial contestants of Ambition Long Term's history. Which is weird because he was like considered a hero in his first season, Total Drama Action, into a pronounced big time villain of Ambition Long Terms. He 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 was loud. I remember at the premiere already. He goes up to me and Colin's like, "I'm at the bottom. I'm at the bottom," and he does the move on Bryce. He throws Bryce under the bus to stay in the game. He fake cries at the tribal council to try to get himself to stay. He played hard. I'm so glad he stayed at the final knife because he was one of the he was the biggest part of the Hell Week. Bizarre was the biggest part. Him and Barbified really were the biggest parts, and he did almost everything he could to win. He got Andrew. He got Andrew to send a screenshot to get him expelled. He played hard. He played hard. He played. You know, Even though he played hard and all that, he was still loyal to people like Morbrid and Jalen. He kept his loyalties. He played hard. He played. Loud and boisterous, and you know some people hate that kind of game and some people love that kind of game, and it was what a big time player personality, and like he left his mark on Ambition Long Terms for real. Like you know he could be considered the biggest villain in Ambition Long Terms after that Marquesas performance. I wish I could say more. It's just that was him. He felt he was a bottom. He made blindsides. He everything, dude. Everything Bizarre did up until he was fighting till he got out, and that's what you should be doing in long terms. He's fighting his way to getting out. That was really it, and he left his mark for sure.
Yeah, and right. So you done with that?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, thanks, Baz. Honestly, love to see you play again down the road.
Yep.
Now we get into our sixth place, who I think, you know, Total Drama World Tour, our most underrated player was probably either Zohek or Fluffy. Probably Fluffy, honestly. Could have been Zohek though. Here, our most underrated player by far is Barry. Man, Barry. I'm still debating on whether they should even have the top 5 position, which they might actually have owned Mina. I don't know. I mean, Barry was the reason Mina made the merge. Barry came in here, and I played with Barry in Obby game shows, and honestly, I thought Barry was a terrible player because I was there until the final 4, and they were there in the final 2. So, but Barry, man, did they change my mind. I did not see this coming. It was one of those really subtle things, like Jeremy somehow coming back and winning after Sam Waldusser. That was crazy. Brent, don't watch this. I want to spoil you. And Barry, that was basically the same thing for Barry. Just from another season, knowing what they really can do. I didn't know what they could really do, and they came in here, played super under the radar. Were what up I production, like nobody in the game, like nobody knew Barry was there. It's like how are you so good at the game but actually make it that way? And that was Barry's game, basically the under the radar game, mastering it, always knowing what's happening, super strategic, super social, perfectly, like it's very doesn't pressure you at all when they talk. And very good, easy to get people on their side. And Barry, I think made every session this season one of the most active of the player of our cast, and you know, easily, group. I mean, nobody really had to try to survive that master vote. That was pretty easy. But Barry playing that idol on Mina is one of the hardest things I've ever had to digest in Ambition long terms. It's crazy. I know it sounds like you know I'm not. I think I'm being a little too high on it, but I don't think I am. If you were there, like what upper I was, it's like how did that even happen? Barry came out of nowhere, out of the shadows, where we forgot they were in the game. Played idol on Mina, sending 7-5 successfully sending 7-5 home, successfully playing the idol. So Mina gets Barry gets to the merge, and I actually thought that they didn't know what was going on at the Final 10 because it was 5-4-1 with Barry voting for Andrew when Albert went home. But Barry actually told me that that was part of their plan, and I don't remember why. Uh, but they said they knew that Albert was going, so you know, I guess they had to keep. They actually said in the alumni channel they wanted to keep a deal with somebody, so something happened there, but they knew what was going on, and then Barry gets to the final seven. Baz starts targeting him, knowing how good Barry is at the game, and unsuccessfully, of course. Barry's very good at staying under the radar when they know they're being targeted. They're very good at sensing things, and but at the final six, when it's 6 people left, just like what happened with Baz, what can you really do? Something has to happen. Barry had a huge resume for somehow being under the radar as a great player. There's nothing Barry could have done. I don't really see any way possible. It's just Survivor's a situational game. Luck can be on your side. You can't control your own fate sometimes. That's what happened to Barry. I would definitely love to see Barry return in the future.
Yeah, Barry. I mean, like I said, he's in the shadows until he attacks you. He very probably the best under the radar game. Maybe Levianthina gets that too. You know, just making sure that he's not the target, and when he had to make a move, he would, such as the Mina idol, the only successful idol play of the season. One of two successful idol plays, and I think Ambition Long Term's history. He plays the idol on Mina, gains an ally while getting rid of an enemy, and that is, that is what Barry's all about. He was good strategically, um, and yeah, he was a very good strategically good under the radar player, and he co-host was Bizarre and was willing to vote out his co-host. I think he did vote out Bizarre, and he
Mm-hmm.
was willing to make those moves in order to get himself further into the game. And you know, maybe he should have been a little bit more social in order to get himself further into the game. So, like someone like Morbert or something like that. But he was a very good player, and if you don't pay attention to him, he will strike, and that's what happened to some people.
Can you still hear me like pretty
Yep,
loudly?
we can hear you.
All right. So next notable player who I'm still debating on whether the second or third best player of the season is our icon, legend, whatever you want to call them, Morbrid from Total Drama Island. Played with him there. They played third best player of the season. I'm still debating. Maybe Morbrid. I think Morbrid might have actually been better than me if I'm looking at it. I don't know. Uh, Second best player in that a tough season like TDI. So I knew what Morbrid was made of, and I was super excited to see how they were gonna play. A year later, I didn't even. I was so shocked when I even saw. I kind of forgot about Morbrid, and then I saw that Morbrid was here. So coming into the season, and Morbrid basically played the exact same game, but Morbrid had so much control somehow. I don't know, like Morbrid, he didn't have any control in TDI. He had to constantly fight. He was a huge underdog. Here it's like he had so much power until the final five. I'm pretty sure he voted correctly every every time, and until his elimination. I think that's actually a fact. Yeah, and Morbrid, you know, his duo with Barbified is one of the most forgotten duos, but those two really did some damage in that pre-merge. They took out Bryce, Morbid was actually there with Barbified, and then upon the merge, Morbid's Morbid got together with Baz and Barbified. These three super threats just getting together to do some damage, taking out Albert, and then taking out Scorpion. And then at the final seven, it's like I feel like the final seven is when I feel like I was rooting for Baz just because Baz was so freaking interesting and really wanted to win. I think more than anyone else there. But after Baz got out, which Morbid's name wasn't even, I think, written down at all up until final six. I was rooting for Morbid. I think everyone was rooting for Morbid at this point. Like, it's just somebody you root for because of how good their game is. And final six, it was between him and Barry. It was so close to the end. There's two obvious threats to win between Morbid and Barry, and had to be someone. Morbid was able to somehow survive that. I'm pretty sure he misplayed an idol at the final six. It might have been final five. No, he misplayed an idol at final seven, but it was Baz. But can't really blame him in a crazy season, especially during the possibly craziest week we've ever seen. So can't really take any points away from that. And at the final six, he was able to survive again, and he also was very good at challenges. That's something I forgot to mention. That Morbid was actually really good at challenges. And then at the final five, though, what can you do, man? Like, somebody voted incorrectly, or somebody voted. It was a 2-2-1 at first, and then Jalen was trying to keep Morbid, but Min and Barbified, that duo, is really unstoppable somehow at the final five. And Morbid was taking out. I really wish he kept on to that idol, but hey, unpredictable game, and Morbid and gets the very fitting legend music, the humane music. So I think he is almost, if not all-star material. So thank you, Morbid.
Yeah, Morbid. When I saw his application, I was like, oh my gosh, Morbid's back after a year at CDI. I was so excited, dude. Literally, I knew he was going to be a good player this season, and yeah, I mean, it was correct. Morbid got fifth place, robbed. He was, you know, did what he did like in TDI. He was strategically sound, he's socially sound, he's physically sound. He is a player that would win a season. He has all three attributes to win. And you know, he was socially aware of what was going on. He would be in the conversations, saying not too much, but saying also not too little either. I would hear him in the voice chats, and he would be saying like the perfect things every single time. And we had a production member, Classic Crusher, join the voice chats sometimes, and even he said he was like, "Man, this Morbid guy literally is gonna win. He just says everything right. He's chill. He's good physically. He's good strategically. He's good socially. I can't say enough about Morbid because he's such a good player to see and watch him play. And he looked for hours for an idol. He looked for hours. He found an idol, and you know he was a threat to people. People saw that also. People saw how good he was socially, strategically, and physically, and that and that he still survived even when people would start putting his name out until he got out. And even when he got out, it tied because he was good. Even flipped the vote. He didn't vote with Levy because I'm pretty sure he saw that. I believe saw the idol coming, and that just shows what a player Morbid is, to be able to be aware of what's going on, be aware of, he knew that was a media challenge he had to win or he would go. He is a very sound player in all three attributes and would be good in any sort of long term, any sort of season ever, dude. Literally, uh, he was just a great addition to have in a season and was a great addition to the whole cast, and it wouldn't be the same without him. Literally, I can't say enough about that guy.
He's definitely the full package. So final fourth place here. So basically, everyone from the final 7 on is or final 8 on is a notable player. Uh, Jalen 22003, right? First 3-time player ever. Played in TDI, top 5 player. I'm pretty sure they placed 4th on that ranking in TDI. Played very similarly to Morbid, but a little more ruthlessly, and ended up getting to the final 3, where one of the biggest robberies in Survivor history, in Ambition Longterms history. Thank you to Marquesas 2022 for coming up with this huge robbery that robbed Jalen for not knowing the elimination order, which, hey, it is what it is. Uh, you win some, you lose some, right? And I got disconnected. Shoot. All right. So anyway, um, so Jalen then came back into Total Drama action as the Courtney twist found barely any success to you know, one-up ceremonies, I guess you could say, and got eliminated because of Solei's ruthlessness. Solei's a huge villain, so I felt like Jalen. So Jalen basically got robbed once and then came back and found.
Mill, you're a little bit laggy.
Basically,
Hold on, guys.
almost seasons and
Mill, you're lagging, by the way.
I'm lagging.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Am I good now?
You are good. Yep.
Okay. I'll try to talk a little bit slow. All right. So Jalen comes into the season, and I'm so happy he was there, and because it's just one of those great stories, and because I feel like he kind of came back to the community. I don't know how long he was gone. I remember Jalen saying like, "Thank you to you and what up for Ambition Longterms," or whatever, something like that, and he left. Months later, I believe, came back, and Jalen. People like to call Jalen clueless. They like to call him, you know, kind of a goat, and I think Jalen was probably the biggest goat of this season, but he played the goat role like almost perfectly. Jalen is so good at just surviving every tribal council. He's so good socially, strategically. I think he's pretty well off, and pretty terrible at comps only because he basically couldn't make a single session. Like I think I don't know if Jalen competed in a single challenge this season because of constantly being on the road, but he still made every session by being in the voice call. So, in the beginning, he just plays his Jalen game and helps contribute to the master elimination. And then I'm pretty sure the next elimination was when it was Albert, and he helped vote out Albert. He helps. I'd have to look back. I'm not. He was in or when Scorpion Singer went home. I'm not sure who Jalen, what side of the stick Jalen was on, but yep, he was definitely on the right side actually. Never mind. And then he gets to the. He voted incorrectly when Baz went home, right? He voted incorrectly when. He voted correctly when Barry went home, and then he tried to do whatever he could for Morbid. I don't really count that as anything against him, and he's really good at surviving. He's really good at just being Jalen. He's really good at being there, and 3-time legend, and he is definitely a big hero. A lot of respect for him for just straight up telling Levy, like, take me out, man. It's okay. Even though it's kind of obvious, kind of cringeworthy in my opinion. And then at the final, when he got his Surf Touch, man, like his torch stuff. Sorry, that was such an emotional elimination for me. That's the closest I've ever come to crying in as competing in. Like I think I've cried a few times when I've lost Longterms. I'm not sure, but just because I was so close, or because people were personally attacking me. But Jalen, this made me cry as a host because of the story of Jalen. He competed in our first season, and I feel like he actually was able to kind of, even though he was kind of a flop as a floater, like because he kind of reduced into that role because he really couldn't get much done as he had to go to work. He was constantly on the road. I mean, he almost died. He almost got into a car accident. I recommend paying attention to when you drive. I'm not gonna lie. So glad you're alive, honestly. But Jalen, I feel like he actually got to finish what he could not get done in TDI and TDA. So definitely kind of underrated in my opinion. So thank you, Jalen.
Yeah, Jalen. I mean, a legend in Ambition Long Term is our first three-time player. With Culture being the second one in this season, Revenge the Island, and you know, he's just a funny. Like he's literally our funniest person, maybe, or like not like one of the funniest people in Ambition Long Term's history. Literally, he. I mean, I remember one of the tribal councils. He almost crashes his car on voice chat. Like literally, like he's just. It's literally just Jalen. He's just such a funny guy. He's great socially. He survives. He just he just literally Jalen. And I mean, he is awesome to have every single season he's in. I love having Jalen this season. He just brings so much to the table, like entertainment wise, that it makes me want to host when he's in a season. It's really fun to have him in seasons, and he's a good guy. Even with the heroic thing of telling Levy it's okay to vote him out and everything. He is an Ambition long term legend. He has a great story. His three times playing. I love his story, and you know, this was a great time to see Jalen play again after his two times, and I was glad to have him in the cast.
All right, so move on to our third place, uh, Leviathana. Um, Now looking back on it, maybe we overrated Levia a tad, cause I'm not sure that Levia voted correctly a single tribal council. I don't think Levia, kind of like Sandra from Heroes vs. Villains. Sorry, just trying to throw some shade at you, man. Uh, he couldn't execute any plans. He couldn't do anything he tried to do, and it was sad. But it was an interesting dynamic there, as he always. That's the thing. Even though he couldn't get things done, he always had the right method to, and he was always in a position where he was going to be safe. Very good at challenges. He had a pretty easy ride in the pre-merge. I mean, to be fair, it could have been a lot different story if Minna went, and he did vote Minna when she should have went, if you count idle plays. So, who knows what would have happened at that point? But get to the merge, and Levy votes incorrectly when Albert goes home. Pretty sure when Scorpion went home, I think he voted Bazar out. I think he was actually against Baz there. And then he voted Barbified at, when Baz went home. He voted Morbrid when Barry went home. He voted Minna for some reason at the final five, and then I guess he knew what was going on. There's really nothing you can take away from him for the final four with Jalen. So, I mean, maybe we overrated him, but I feel like he tried to get things done perfectly. It's just almost perfectly. You can't really be perfect in this sense, but like he tried some things and he always had the right ideas. It's just sometimes it comes down to one vote and Survivor situational. So Levy did a great job, and I definitely looking forward to see him coming back in the future.
Yeah, Levy and Dinda. For his rookie season, he played a very good, social game. He, you know, played very under the radar for the pre-merge and the start of merge until it was actually started time to play, and actually till it was actually time to play, which was the start of Hell Week, where his relationship with Barbified was getting kind of a target on his back. So what does he do? He throws Barbified under the bus in front of the voice chat, and puts a target on his own best friend's back instead of his, and that was a great social and strategic move by his part. And after that, even after Hell Week, he still rekindled that friendship with Barbified to where he still was kept along for longer. And he always put himself in a position where he was safe. He always knew that he had the votes to stay every single time up until the final three. And he was good at challenges, and he was good socially, and he was sound strategically, and then it he was he was able to keep his relationships with people, and form new ones. And you know he was basically a social under the radar player, and that is sometimes what you have to be to go survive for as long as these you know 15 eliminations, 14 eliminations. And that's what he did.
All right, so now we get into who I firmly still believe is the best player of Survivor Marquesas. Was the best player of Survivor Marquesas. That is being Barbified, Jesse, Heavenly, whatever you want to say. Might have had the most nicknames, or names straight up in a long term we've done. So Barbified, yes, I do believe they should have won. I believe they're the best player of the season easily. They were easily the main character of the season. I think. Uh, they weren't the biggest personality, but I think they easily were the second. I mean, like, Barbified came into this game, and I think what I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're a popular long-term group for the challenge. Which,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so I guess I've heard of Barbified before. Maybe I never really played the challenge besides What Up Edition, but you know I didn't think Barbified was going to try just by their name, who they are, their background, what they look like on Roblox even. Like, I asked how they responded to me when I asked them about their GFX. They were just like, yes. I was like, okay, Barbified's not going to care. And was I wrong? Boy, was I wrong. This was maybe the biggest shock ever for me, for somebody who tried way harder than I thought they were going to. Barbified cared so much about this log term, put so much time into this. Even, like, I'm pretty sure like 2 to 3 days ago, Barbified was even DMing me about just some things about Marquesas. It's crazy because they're not even in the server anymore, and I don't know why. But Barbified comes to the season and just plays so hard and does everything they need to do. I mean, they control or them and their alliance with Baz was really what sent Bryce home. Barbified was able to survive that, and them and Baz had a really. I think Barbified was honestly probably the biggest deciding factor in these kind of votes. Like when Albert went home, that was probably due to Barbified. When Scorpion went home, if I look at it actually, when Scorpion went home, that's okay. So that's when Barbified flipped on Baz. So maybe it was a little short-lived. Barbified tries to get Baz out here, knowing the kind of damage and the huge player he is. Doesn't work out, and that final 9 vote was when that's when Barbified basically became the Mike Holloway from Worlds Apart, because that's when the entire cast just turns against Barbified. Everyone wants him out, and and it was so funny because there were 8 people left, and after that session, in the VC, I guess for Soliantu at the time, everyone was in the VC just attacking Barbified. It was like even people who voted with him were calling him out. It was the Barbified show at this point, and Barbified was able to win a record-breaking 3 challenges, or a record tying actually, with Suffer the Children and Coulter 1-2, but finds 3 idols. And Barbified, I understand. Like, okay, Barbified misplayed 3 idols. That's hilarious, but it's also kind of sad in the way that it could have been so much more. But I'm kind of happy that happened. And Barbified, I don't think that, and a big reason Barbified lost this game was because of those idols misplayed. I remember people talking about Barbified misplaying 3 idols in the jury chat, and at the final tribal council, just because, but I think that honestly, if you have the drive to win a season, if you could be the worst player ever, but if you have so much dedication, determination, devotion, like, if you really want to win a season that bad, we're gonna win 3 challenges, make every session do everything you need to win, and find three idols looking for how I don't even know how many hours combined. Then I think that especially playing how well Barbify did, because I haven't really talked about their gameplay like that much. I mean, because yeah, they were a huge target, and then after failing to get out Baz, finally they're allowed to get rid of Baz. They're able to because everyone jumps on board. Baz gets out. Barbify gets Barry out. Like Barbified, Morbid, and Jalen get together to vote Barry out at the final six. Barbified, and that the final six is really like final seven. Barbified, huge player in that vote with Baz. Barbified at the final six. That's where the Barbified like super show, like the controlling Barbified really happened because Barbified was definitely controlled that Barry vote. Barbified definitely controlled the well, with the help of Morbid, but then Barbified easily controlled the Morbid vote at Final Five, and at the Final Four, Barbified wins immunity. I mean, Barbified wins immunity. If Barbified, it was either one person was going to win that challenge at the Final Four, and the thing about it is that whoever won, one of the other side was whoever they voted was 100% going home, just based off of the fact that it's Final Four, the fact that it's Final Four, and that there's going to be an automatic elimination. There's going to have to be a unanimous decision when two heads go together 2-2. So Barbified dominates these challenges, controls the rest of the season, takes out Levy, which was, in my opinion, the right decision. Not quite sure why they took out Jalen instead of Minna. I don't know, but Walnut probably knows more about it than I do, like I said. And at the final tribal council, Barbified's Barbified was kind of the Russell Hands, but like I don't think I think these people kind of over exaggerated. I don't think Barbified, was as extreme. I don't think Russell was extreme. Like I don't think Barbified was an extreme hate, like you had to make them lose. I don't think Barbified was a mean person at all. Yeah, and Barbified, basically, I think that it was a bitter jury decision. I don't really understand. I don't know if Baz was lying or not when he said it was based off of gameplay when they voted Minna, but I think Barbified 100% lost due to a bitter jury, and none of them have even admitted that they voted incorrectly. Like, I guess there's really no incorrect winner, but no, I guess I feel like that it was still an incorrect decision. So I think Barbified definitely all-star material. Second best runner-up we've ever had, behind obviously Shauna. That's a big accomplishment. That's 7 seasons, and definitely brought some strength to the runner-up field too. And really glad he played. Definitely the main character of the season, and that shows with those top 5. So thank you, Barbified. Definitely consider you for a big season.
Yeah, Jesse, or aka Barbified, he was the second biggest, or even the biggest personality of the season. He played well. He, pre-merge, he was pretty good. Then, if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the votes that voted with Sebi when Sebi got blindsided. Yeah, he was. When Barry blindsided Sebi, he was one of the votes with Sebi. He one of the people blindsided. He was, he made it to merge. He had his relationship with Levy and Dinah. He had his relationship with Andrew, and was able to be one of the people that helped Andrew get Albert out. Or was one of the people to get Albert out. And then, you know, then the Scorpion votes happens. And then Hell Week is where we really saw Barbified start playing this game hard. This was a week of, even, well, he was playing hard though. He the Scorpion vote off, he played an idol on Levia. He still was finding these idols. He still was playing. But then all of a sudden we saw a new kind of Barbified. We saw him where he's, you know, he was at the point of almost quitting at the end of Hell Week. He literally, almost quit. Or he did try quitting, and then came back like 2 hours later. He that he got blindsided by his own friend. He felt betrayed. He felt mad. He was angry. He formed a relationship with Mina. He formed a relationship with Morbrid. He just wanted revenge on Baz. That's all he wanted was revenge, revenge, revenge. And I think he was fueled by that into playing this game for the latter of the season. He goes into season. He finds the idols. He wins the immunity challenge. Was immune from the final 7 all the way to the final tribal count. Final 2. He formed relationships with people. He was able to, just make it fight his way to the end. You know, some would say dominate his way to the end. The way he was immune from the final 7 to the final 2, and he was just fueled with that fire that Hell Week brought him. The fire that was needed, and his willingness to betray people like Levi Athena at the final 3. And he's a player that is willing to backstab. He's a player that is willing to do anything to win. And this game put him to his ultimate limit. I saw Barbified at probably a limit he's never felt before. A limit at the edge of quitting, at the edge of just betrayal and losing his best friend and everything. I saw him maybe at his worst, and that fueled him all the way to the end. And I do believe he deserved to win over Minna, but he probably is, some would say the main character, like Mill said, main character of Marquesas. You can argue that. Yeah, we saw the worst of Barbified, and we saw that he pushed for far and far and far until he got to the end. And he had a good final tribal council performance too. It just the votes didn't line up with him, and he was the best player of the season, and he deserves a lot of props for how he played at Marquesas. And that was just one hell of, when I say one hell of a season, it really comes down to one hell of a player that Barbified was too, and what a player it was hard to reckon with him.
I agree 100%. Okay, so final person we're going to be talking about until we get into the All-Star announcement is Minna 0504. Now, when we talk about Bazaar being the biggest player of the season, I think it comes down to not the biggest, the biggest personality. I think that comes down to how he plays his game personality. But Minna's I think she had the biggest personality just because of the season, but when it just comes to her general personality, this was the most controversial win we've ever had. I don't know why they even won. It's hard. I can't believe I'm saying that, but they were sitting next to somebody who was the best player of the season as the 5th or 6th best player of the season. It's just Minna. Like I said, I knew Minna was gonna win as soon as they responded with that GFX. It's just a feeling I had, and it just happened, and it's just crazy that works that way. But you got to give props to Minna though, and I'll explain why. So Minna, the reason it's kind of an overall game with Minna. It's not like there's any differences between their game until maybe when they started, betraying some people like Barry, who saved her. But Minna's overall game is basically the same game. It's basically constantly talking in group chats, constantly DMing everyone, constantly VCing with everyone, annoying the hosts, talking about things that I don't even know what her I don't. That's the thing with Minna. I don't know if she even plays the game, and what she said to people everyone who in those VCs kind of backs it up. Minna would literally say stuff about this not really ambition long terms, it's more than ambition long terms. It's about personal relationships when she was talking to Levia. and she would just say the most random things. Like I don't even nobody. Like she BC'd with Levia an hour after Jalen got out about stuff I couldn't follow. It absolutely made zero sense like to me, and it's nothing personal against Minna. It's just that I don't know if Minna was playing in this game or participating in this game because that win, and that's the thing. I don't know if Minna's game was unintentional or intentional. I'm I'm honestly leading towards that was an unintentional game, an unintentional win. That Minna, she did everything but the thing was, her social game was arguably the second, third best of the season. Like no matter how much we take away from Minna for that win, like or because of how she played, really, I mean, you gotta give her credit, even though it was probably unintentional. Like the way she talks to you, there's absolutely like she annoys everyone. Like these people just did not like Minna's personality. Some of them just did not like Minna, and I can't blame them. No offense, Minna. I'm not saying anything against you. I'm just saying that you, your personality is a bit much, okay? And it's just it's so I don't know, and that really showed here. But the thing about Minna, where to give her credit, is that she was never going home. She was never going home. Besides that idol play, because and that's this outside of idol play because of this huge goat role she played. Like she, it was probably unintentional. Like she made like her game was always getting make her far as a goat, and they made it to the end, and it was definitely it was definitely too late. She got to the end, and it was too late for the players to take her out. All the juries were like, "Oh shoot, Mina's in the end. Now we're gonna vote her." It's like, well, the way she approaches people, the way she talks, her personality got her to the end. I'm not sure about her gameplay, but and Mina winning the season, honestly, she's our first female winner, and I wanted that to be given to somebody who kind of deserved it, and I'm not I don't think it's the best for Mina to be the first female winner, and it was something we've never had, and it was something interesting. It was brought up in Survivor Africa, having a first female winner, and she got that title and she got the win in one of the craziest long terms, if not the craziest, I will ever see. And I listen, nothing personal. It's just I don't think that Mina should have won. And it's just sad because every person who's won should have won out of the finalists. In my opinion, I do not think Mina should have won it. Marquesas really broke that streak. So thanks, Mina, for playing. Thanks for being active. Thanks for blowing up in everyone's DMs and group chats all the time. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. Just what up? You go ahead.
Yeah, Mina. I mean, her winning, wow, Mina won. Like that was Mina was just, she was a personality. You know, I remember times at Tribal Council when Levy and Barbara fighted like make fun of the way she talked or some shit, like do like the British accent. Mina was a, when I say big personalities, yeah, like Mill said, we were talking about like game personalities. Her personality as a whole is it's just random, kind of like a Nora from Survivor Island, the Idols. It's like random. You don't even know what Mina's doing. Like there'd be a time where it was like me, Mill, Mina, Levy on call, and she talked for an hour and a half, and both of them DM'd me like, what the hell was she talking about? Like, 'cause she could go on for hours just talking to me, and I don't even know what she would be talking about. Like, she is a very different personality, one of the like a top personality of Mitch Longterm's history. Really was Mina, and she went with the right person, Barbified. Uh, she felt they formed a bond, like a bond like people form bonds like a bond I saw like with like Sully and Captain and TDL, like a bond like just got each other. They when Bar Fight was at her worst, Mina was trying to pick her up, or was trying to pick him up, and um, she did everything she felt was good, and in a game of Survivor, you have to lie, cheat, and steal. She did not want to lie, cheat, and steal, and I mean, hey, she won the game, so good on her for that, I guess. I mean, it came down to, I guess the person she was with ended up being the best person to take to the end, or for her to take her to the end. And, she wasn't willing to make moves, or really, she kind of frowned upon making moves. She frowned upon these backstabbing and stuff like that. And at her final tribal council, she said moves that other people were doing. She would say, "Hey, Morbid did this. Hey, Levia did this. Hey, this person did this. Hey, this person did this," and that got a lot of credit from the jury. Some people like Baz, and that that was the reason she won. Basically, you know, was that, and she is Mina. Like, she is a personality that I wouldn't mind coming back, because she's just like she said when she first came into the season. She's like a crazy bitch, and she knows it. She owns it, and it's very fun to have her in the season, because she was like a meme, but like crazy and everything. It was really funny to see her in the season. So yeah, that's my opinion on our winner, Mina0504.
Yep. So I'm pretty sure that's it for Marquesas.
That's it for Survivor Marquesas. Hour and 56 minutes. Well, really, like, 2 hours and something, because we did 50 minutes before. So yeah, we did. That is on Survivor Marquesas. That is our Survivor podcast, and I do have an announcement for our upcoming season. It's gonna be our biggest season ever. I can't wait. Mill can't wait. This is gonna be fucking insane. I'm not sure how many number of cast, 14 to 16 people, 14 16 all-stars, total drama all-stars is gonna happen next season after Revenge of the Island, and I can't wait. I can't wait to release more stuff about it. We're probably gonna do a podcast announcing the cast for Total Drama All Stars. I mean, this will be insane season. All stars, all competing against each other. The best of the best. From, I don't want to spoil the cast, so I'm not gonna say anything too much, but from TDI to Revenge of the Island, every one of these dominant players will be in the season, and it's gonna be one hell of a ride, and I don't know who will make it on top. So yeah, Total Drama All Stars. That podcast is coming soon, and yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Yeah, Survivor Marquesas. What
Hope.
a hell of a season. Any last words, Emil?
Uh, uh, I guess just no, I don't have any. I don't have any other words. No.
All right,
Just
everyone.
stay tuned for All Stars. Just stay tuned
Yes,
for All
sir.
Stars.
Thanks for watching. Sorry, Mulbird, we can't really get it to 2 hours. It's 1 hour and 59 minutes.
Wait, you just ended it? You just ended it?
No, I'll end it right now. All right.
Oh, okay.
Thank you guys for watching. Peace.